Hello, I'm Min Kobayashi, and I'm in a totally different apartment. I had my computer break for a few weeks, and then I had my exams. I drove a lot to go and visit my family, and then I came back and moved. It's been a wild month or so. I'm not sure if this will go up or after my superhero-thon video. That is the beginning of my April, and then this one is going to be the rest of my April books that I read. So on this list I have 16 books. Batman Nightwalker by Marie Lu. Gave it 5 stars, which isn't very common. Even though I'm not often a fan of how Bruce Wayne is portrayed in other things other than comics, I did think that Marie Lu did capture the essence of his comic book life. I really liked Bruce in this, and I really liked the Easter eggs and the references and the world building of what would one day be Batman's land. The only complaint I have against this is the romance. I thought it was impractical and that Bruce would have been smarter than that. However, thankfully it did not take over that much of the book, and I was happy about that. Then I have Animal Farm by George Orwell. This is a book that I thought was brilliant. I gave it 5 stars as well. The story was so interesting. Although a lot of people do think that George Orwell is writing against socialism, he's actually not. He actually was more socialistic himself than capitalistic. I thought it was a very good example of how the world often comes. And though it is tragic, it is also a very familiar story that we can all understand. One of my favorite lines was the very last one. It was impossible to tell which was which. And then I read 2 poems. The Mirror by Sylvia Plath. I thought that one was beautiful. I read it multiple times over. I also read We Wear the Mask by Paul Laurence Dunbar. I thought that this was very introspective and very beautiful. Throughout the course of the month, I read 4 volumes of Saga 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Wait, that's 5. I absolutely love this series. Again, my only complaint is I would prefer if it was cleaner. However, I do think it is a beautiful series. I wrote full reviews for every single one of them, but I'm not going to get into them because that would take way too long. Most of my highlights, the storytelling, the character development, the realism, and Hazel's commentary, because Hazel is awesome. And I gave all the sagas 3 stars. And I also read Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. I gave this 3 stars. I enjoyed it in an academic sense. I didn't enjoy it in a pleasure very much. I thought that comparing it to 1984 would be interesting, as overindulgence isn't something we always see as torture. It just got cloudy in here, so sorry for the lack of light. And I read Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. I thought this was a retelling. It's actually just the myths told in a different way for his son, and I thought that was very interesting. I like his style, and although I knew all the myths, I didn't find myself incredibly bored. No, it was actually interesting, and I gave it 3 stars. Then I read Renegades by Marissa Meyer. I actually started this a few months ago, and I had it on audiobook, and I love Marissa Meyer. She's one of my favorite authors, but I just couldn't get into it. I think it was mostly the woman who voiced Nova, the main character. I found her irritating. Then I renewed it, and I actually really enjoyed it the second round. I loved their system, their government, their politics, their world building. I was again and again mesmerized by how much effort Marissa Meyer had put into the world building. This is her first book grounded in our own world, and I thought that she did an amazing job. I really loved Adrian, and I began to love Nova as the book went on. So from a book that I did not finish for the first 2 weeks that I had it until reading it and not being able to put it up. I gave 4 stars to Renegades. Stormfront by Jim Butcher. I've heard nothing but good things about this book, and I had such great expectations for a wizard in modern day-ish. However, I noticed the sexism right away, and I was like, well, it's 2000, people weren't as great at combating sexism. And then as it went on and on, I was like, oh my goodness. And I started looking for reviews of the first one that was pretty bad. I looked up 6 or 7 of them. Distaste for the sexism in the series and over-sexualization of the female. And the story wasn't that good. I ended up DNFing it at 40%. Gave it 1 star because I'm very confused by people who DNF books and give them more than 1 star. But Celebrations by Maya Angelou. I gave this 2 stars. Northanger Abbey. I'm really starting to love Jane Austen. It's a parody, and it's very different from her other books. Jane Austen is such a beautiful story writer. I gave this book 3 stars. I have a lot to talk about Lawn May You Reign, and I have it all listed here, and I'm just realizing I should just make a separate review. Pretty much, Lawn May You Reign got 4 stars. I thought it was incredible. I thought it was great mental health representation, which doesn't happen in fantasy. I thought that it had many different genres, and I thought that the character's growth and development was incredible. The Gift of Therapy by Irvin Yalom, which you have probably never heard of. It's one of my school books and I absolutely loved it. It's so full of underlining, I'm sure there's not even pages left. I give it 5 stars. If you're going into counseling or just want to know how to better help people, that is my video for today. Tell me what your favorite book of April was and have a delightful